And the reason I do it because it's so important. It is so important that we link our philosophies in our tradition. Because so many times when a Muslim or a theist talks to an atheist, we have the discussions and we don't link it to our tradition. So they may believe in God, but they won't accept Islam because you have not mentioned anything about Islam. And I think it's very powerful, or rather it's extremely important that when we're talking to an atheist or Christian or anybody, that we have the main goal in mind. The main goal is not to show that a creator exists, and we discussed this earlier. The main goal is to show them that Allah is worthy of our adoration, of our love, of our humility, of our obedience, of our love, and for us to know Him and to obey Him and to direct our acts of worship to Him alone. That's the end goal. The end goal is not just for them to believe in a creator. This is not Islam. This is not the Quran. The Quran didn't come here just to show you God exists. The Quran came here to show you who you must worship, which implies that you have to believe He's a creator as well. So that's why we talk about these arguments and link them to our tradition. But you have to understand, these arguments are also universal. That was very hot. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Quranic argument for God's existence. We spoke about fitrah and first principles. We spoke about self-evident truths. We spoke about the implications of philosophical naturalism, the implications of atheism, or more specifically, philosophical naturalism, which is the philosophy that there is no divine, there is no supernatural, everything can be explained by physical processes. Now we have a positive argument for God's existence. Now we've gone through the necessary and important stages and concepts and sessions in order for us to really truly understand the context of the positive arguments we're going to address in the next few days. Here's the story. You ready for the story? One day, I wake up in the morning, get ready for work, and I walk outside of my house. As I walk outside of my house, I see this black van with tinted glass windows stop right beside me. I see all of these men with balaclavas jump out of the van. They put a black hood over me and they throw me in the back of the van. They handcuff me and tie my legs. After a few hours, they stop. But before they stop, they sedate me and I fall asleep. Once they stop, something happens. I don't recall because I'm asleep, sedated. But now I wake up and I'm in the middle of a room. It has stony walls, a stony ceiling, a stony floor. There are no windows, no doors, no entrances, no exits, no cracks, no holes, no gaps, nothing. It's as pure stone. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? I pinch myself. Am I dreaming? I'm not dreaming. So I'm trying to get out of it. I'm trying to find out how I got into. I spend hours. And then I get really tired and fall back asleep. After some time, I wake up. And what do I see in front of me? I see a computer with a computer screen on a table. And on the screen, as I approach it, it says, "This computer and desk came from nothing." What should I conclude in this context? Should I actually believe the computer and the desk came from nothing? Or do I believe there must be some kind of causal explanation? There must be some kind of prior causal activity that was responsible for the computer and the desk to be in the room. Correct? Exactly. This little thought experiment is a summary of the Quranic argument for God's existence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in chapter 52, verse 35 to 36. Or were they created by nothing? Or did they create themselves? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Indeed, they have no certainty. So this is Quranic ayat, Quranic verses. But there is some logic behind these verses. The ulama actually discussed certain logical explanations for things that have a beginning. Because Allah says, the word here, khuliqu. Khuliqu means something that had a beginning. It's makhluq. It was created. It is muhdath. It came into being. Once it comes into being, then we need to explain it. We need to explain it. Now, originally, obviously these ayat refer to the specific human being. But the specific human being is a created being. It had a beginning. So Allah is asking, did you come from nothing? Did you create yourself? Did you, the created thing, create the heavens and the earth? Another created thing. Indeed, you have no certainty. So I want to break down the logic here. So I've already discussed the logic behind these ayat applied to everything that had a beginning, everything that came into existence, everything that is makhluq, everything that is created. So here are the four logical explanations. So if something began to exist, you can explain it by saying it came from nothing. If something began to exist, you can explain it by saying it was self-created. If something began to exist, you can explain it by saying, well, ultimately it was created by something else created. Or, what you can say, if something began to exist, you can say it was created by something uncreated. Does this make sense so far? Any issues? Okay, great. Now, obviously, one major problem here is, well, Hamza, if you want to apply this to the universe, and not just to apply this to human beings or other things that begin to exist, you have to show to me that the universe actually had a beginning. Right? Well, I'm not going to address this. That's for your homework. You could talk about this tomorrow. Let's assume the universe had a beginning. Now you can articulate that the universe had a beginning by referring to philosophical evidence. I don't like referring to empirical evidence like the Big Bang, for example, because the Big Bang is based on empirical evidence, and that can change based on new evidence. And there are currently 17 different models that explains the data. There are 17 different models that explain the Big Bang. There's not one way of looking at the situation, right? So it's not very definite. There's nothing conclusive from that point of view to show that the universe had a beginning. I like to refer to kind of philosophical evidence that is not based on our understanding of a particular time or a current level of understanding. It transcends time, because philosophical evidence, for example, showing that a physical infinite cannot exist is far more powerful to show that the universe had a beginning, but I don't want to get into that right now. That's for your own homework. So given that the universe began as well, we could apply these logical explanations to explain the universe. If the universe began, or given that it has a beginning, could it come from nothing? Did it create itself? Did it create the heavens and the earth? Sorry, was it created by something else created, or did it have an uncreated creator? So, what we should do now is go through these logical explanations. So the first one, could the universe come from nothing? Who could answer this question? Could the universe come from nothing? Yes, sir. It could come from nothing. How?
You can't prove it right.
Well, the question I'm saying is, could the universe come from nothing? But the question you need to ask me is, what do you mean by nothing? So what we mean by nothing is no prior causal condition. What we mean by nothing is the absence of something. So could the universe come from no prior causal activity? Could the universe come into being from an absence of anything? Yes?
No.
No. Why? Because being cannot come from non-being. You can't have a cause come into existence and there was no prior causal condition. This is metaphysically impossible. Because think about this, the minute you say things can come into existence without any prior causal activity, it means things can disappear without no prior causal activity. The Walmart is only around the corner, right? It's not that far. Imagine you walk past the Walmart and you see the Walmart on your left, and then you just turn around, and as you turn around, it disappears. If you could claim that something could come from nothing, that something can come from no prior causal activity, then you shouldn't be shocked that a Walmart would disappear for no reason at all. Yeah? Also, we need to understand something here where, you know when people say, oh yeah, the universe has come from nothing. This means that they should be satisfied with any ridiculous explanation for things that happen to them. For example, if someone says, yeah, the universe has come from nothing, and then you punch them right in the face, how did that happen? It came from nothing, right? If you could claim that for the entire cosmos, then what's a punch? Yeah? You know, and you have Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi, a scholar who did a brief commentary on these ayats. He mentions something very similar. He says, oh, were they brought into being without creator? That could not happen because the creation must inevitably be connected to the creator. Now, obviously there are some contentions to this argument. So an atheist would say, well, there's a problem here. The problem is, aren't you assuming that causality exists outside of the universe? So what they're saying is this, they say, fine, we know there are causes and effects in the universe. Things happen, and before they happen, there is some kind of causal activity, right? So you have causes in the universe, things come into existence in this universe, and in this universe, when things come into existence, they have prior causal activity. There's some kind of prior causal activity. There is some prior reason, if you like, for those causes coming into existence. But one of the arguments is, and this was an argument from David Hume and Bertrand Russell, Western philosophers, they were basically arguing that, well, this idea only makes sense within the universe, but maybe outside of the universe, causality doesn't apply. It doesn't make any sense. Who could address this objection? Okay, who could address his objection for $1,000? That changes the dynamic, doesn't it? Yes, Chef.
The reason there, why it doesn't make sense is because why do you think there's something outside the universe first? And then second, why do you think outside the universe rules are different?
Okay, good. That's good. So you reversed it back on them. You're saying, look, why do you think outside the universe the rules are different? How do you think they would respond? So I want you to go on this journey with me, yeah? So you're right. You're questioning something that is very true. Why do you think the rules are different outside of the universe, right? How do you think they would respond? I want everyone to listen because you're going through this journey to understand these concepts.
So if I told them that, you can't think about the universe, what's outside the universe because you're not seeing it, they'll say, well, what have you seen? And they're going to question my ability to observe and ask me what makes me believe that they are wrong.
Well, they would say to you, so take David Hume. He would say to you, sir, the reason I'm saying that causality can't apply outside of the universe is because the only reason we know about causality is because we experience things within the universe. It's an empirical principle. That's what they would say. Our response is, fine, it's an empirical principle, but we say, no, it's not an empirical principle, it's a metaphysical principle. This principle applies in any universe, in any experience. So you have to understand where they're coming from. They usually use this argument to say, well, you can't say nothing about outside of the universe because causality only makes sense within the universe because we derive the understanding of causality from our experience. But we would turn the tables and say, no, that's not true. You need to have causality first before you understand any experiences. Because it's causality that allows you to understand your experiences. It's not the other way around. So what we would argue is, causality is not an empirical principle. It's not derived from our experiences. Rather, causality is a metaphysical principle, a first principle that we need to put on our lenses in order to understand our experiences in the first place. So that's how you would respond to that type of argument. That, well, you've misunderstood what causality is, how it's understood and derived. You think it's derived from experience. It's not. You need it before you have experience. So let me give you a thought experiment as simple as possible, which I do appreciate sometimes they're not very simple. Let me give you a thought experiment to prove this point. Right here. I'm on the stage at the moment, and I can walk down towards you. As I'm walking down towards you, you can see my front before you see my back, correct? Correct? Good. Now if I stay still here, you can see me, you can see the stage, you can see the ceiling, you can see the computer screen. You can choose to order and reorder your perception. You can see the stage first, then see me, then see the ceiling. Or you could say, I'm going to see the ceiling first, then the stage, then Hamza, right? So you know, in this situation, you can order and reorder your perceptions. So far, so good? So in the first scenario, me coming down, you can't order or reorder your perceptions because you can only see my front before you see my back, correct? In the second scenario, you can choose where to look at first and you can reverse that order of perception, correct? So here's the point. The reason we know when we can order and when we can't order our perceptions is because of the concept of causality. There is some kind of causal link between my front and my back. And when I'm walking towards you, you understand that, therefore you make the conclusion, I can only see his back before I see his front. But when you see the picture of me just sitting down, you don't need those causal connections. So, this shows that you have the idea of causality to understand your experiences. You don't look at the world and you look at experience itself in order to understand causality. So you need causality or the idea of causal connections prior to your experiences. Otherwise, your experiences will be meaningless. That's a thought experiment to show that causality does make sense outside of the universe. It's not just an empirical principle, it's a metaphysical one. Now, okay, here's another contention. What about the scientists when they say, hey Hamza, what about quantum mechanics? What about quantum physics, right? That's what they would say. Quantum physics tells us that you have particles emerging from nothing. There is no prior causal condition. Zero. No prior causal condition. Particles emerge from nothing. How would you address this? Yes, sir.
How do you know it's from nothing?
The quantum vacuum is nothing. Particles emerge from nothing.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's from nothing.
Sorry?
Quantum fluctuation.
Explain more. Yes, sister.
So we know nothing, nothing exists from nothing, like nothing, like God is God, and zero is zero, and this is that. As a Muslim, as a believer, so my first principle is that God is here, and God can do everything that He wants to do. So if God decides to create something, He will do it. So for me, that's the first principle. So I want to question how, or does it came from something, or how it came. So I believe that God is powerful and He can do whatever He wants to do.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be an adequate argument because you would have to assume God exists before you have to make them assume that God exists in order for them to understand your response. They're saying to you, a particle can emerge from nothing. If that's the case, then if it's the case for a particle, it could be the case for the universe. So they would say to you, therefore, the universe doesn't require a creator, because if a particle comes from nothing, so can the universe. So you need to respond to that. How do we respond to the accusation that particles come from a quantum vacuum and therefore things can come from nothing? What do you have to do to dismantle that false, misplaced contention?
So I will tell you, how can you prove me that things exist from nothing? So do it, you.
Yes, well they just did. They said a particle came from the quantum vacuum. There you go.
So please prove it to me.
Just look at it.
How?
Well, they say hypothetically the scientists have seen particles emerge from quantum vacuum. They have, yeah? So they would say to you, see, something comes from nothing. What would you say?
I don't see.
Yes, sister.
Isn't the creation of a particle still something?
The particle is something, but they're saying this something comes from nothing.
But the creation of it is something. So how the particle was created, the energy or however it existed, that's something.
Good, that's very good. So, she went straight to the premise. It's not the case that a particle came from nothing, because what does nothing mean? Absence of anything, no prior causal conditions. But the quantum vacuum is something. It's not nothing. It is a sea of fluctuating energy. It has a rich structure. That's the point. So you just say to them, well, you've misunderstood what nothing is, and you've misunderstood the quantum vacuum, because the quantum vacuum is still something physical. So it's something coming from something. That makes sense. Brilliant. Now, we've dealt with that. And this is why the slide deals with this issue. Okay, what about this one? If you can't have something from nothing, then did God create from nothing? I'm not going to give you the answer, so let me repeat. And you have this question. Okay, Hamza, it makes sense. You can't have the universe from nothing. You can't have particles from nothing. You can't have a biryani from nothing. You can't have a salad from nothing. You can't have anything from nothing. So how did therefore God create from nothing?
He didn't create from nothing.
He is the creator. He can do anything. It says in the Quran, like, many examples.
He didn't create from nothing.
But you can't have your cake and eat it. That means you presume the idea of God in order for your argument to work. You're saying atheism is false because things can't come from nothing. Oh, but the universe can because God could do it. That's a false argument. Yeah.
But God, the creator, is the cause.
Yes. Remember, words are vehicles to meaning. Words are vehicles to meaning. When we say nothing, kun fayakun, it doesn't mean Allah created from nothing as if there was an absence of anything. Because Allah was there. He always existed. The prior causal condition was Allah's qudra and irada. It was His power and His will. So it's about understanding what we mean by nothing in this context. Theologically, when we say Allah created from nothing, we mean there was nothing there and Allah created the universe, right? But it doesn't mean there was nothing, meaning nothing was there, including no Allah. Yeah? We don't mean that. So it's not the case of the universe coming to existence from nothing, because the thing that made the universe come into being was Allah's will and power. So it's about understanding what we mean by nothing in that particular context. So, as we read here, I can't even read from there. Something coming from nothing is impossible. Nothing implies non-being, no potential, no causal conditions. However, Allah had the potential to create and bring things into existence via His will and power. Therefore, it is not the case of something coming from nothing. Allah's will and power was that thing, if you like, that brought the universe into existence. So we shouldn't confuse the theological understanding of kun fayakun and whoa, let's go electric shock up my leg. Allahu Akbar. Oh my God. That was more than static, that's for sure. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I was scared to sit down. Oh, alhamdulillah. Sorry. Bit of humor for you. Okay. So, we shouldn't confuse kun fayakun with something can come from nothing. That's not the case. Because what we mean by nothing here is no potential, no prior causal condition. But Allah is something from the point of view He is a being, right? So don't confuse Allah creating from no material. Because we believe there was nothing, only Allah, and Allah created the universe. So don't confuse the theological nothing, something coming from nothing, which means Allah created the universe and there was no material at all. And with what we're talking about now, the philosophical concept of nothing, which there is nothing there, no potential, no prior causal conditions. So sometimes this question gets confusing for us because we mix the two notions together. Don't mix them up. Say it's true, you can't have something coming from nothing because you need some kind of prior causal condition. Allah's will and power is the prior causal condition. However, in our Islamic theology, we believe Allah created from nothing from the point of view that there was nothing physical there. But Allah's power and will was there to create the universe. So Allah was the prior cause to bring the universe into existence. So this contention is a misplaced contention. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
So what you're saying, I guess know the Islamic point of view. You're only answering for the people who believe in the Big Bang theory.
No.
Or is that not true?
If you believe the universe had a beginning, this argument follows. Big Bang is irrelevant here.
Because a lot of people who believe in Big Bang, they think that it just came out of nowhere and just expanded, I guess, right? And that's just a theory. I honestly don't, prescribe to that theory. If somebody ever says that to me, for example, when I read about it, I believe in the electrical universe. So
Yeah, but
what happened in that case?
with all due respect, the Big Bang is not as such. That is a very popular understanding of the Big Bang. But all of a sudden, there was an explosion. Yeah, there are 17 different models that relate to the Big Bang. One of them includes there was a pre-eternal quantum space, for example, or there was some kind of quantum haze, and then a particle emerged as some kind of hoo-ha, and then you had the universe. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know the details, but when you study the philosophy of science, you talk about this when you're talking about underdetermination, which is you have many theories to explain the same data, and all those theories are equivalent in value, in terms of truth value. So the point here is, it's not the kind of comical understanding of the Big Bang. There was nothing, all of a sudden, boom. No, I don't think anyone believes that. Yeah. So don't worry about the Big Bang for now.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say here is, the minute you believe the universe began, the minute you could apply this, and you say, right, could it have come from nothing? And what we're saying is, we've already addressed the first logical explanation. The universe couldn't come from nothing. All right? Based on what we've just discussed so far. Based on the definition that nothing means an absence of something and no prior causal conditions. Do you understand? Good. So this leads us to the next logical explanation. Could the universe create itself? Yes, sir. Okay.
We are saying that everything needs a cause.
No, we're not. That's what you're saying.
So what was the first principle that universe cannot come from nothing? It has to be a cause. And in our case, that Allah's will.
Yeah, so in the beginning, if you remember, we said this can only apply to things that have a beginning, that began to exist. Okay? So if you want to derive a principle from it, the principle will be whatever begins to exist has a cause. Not whatever exists. There is a subtle difference. Okay? So, could the universe be self-created? Why?
It doesn't even have hands.
Yes.
It can't create itself because how it was created, it was by Allah. And Allah was uncreated.
Allahu Akbar! Preach, brother, preach!
He can do anything he wants.
Absolutely.
But the stuff that are not him can't do whatever they want.
Yeah, so you can't have all the sweets you want.
Yeah, but like the stuff that you can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
But the stuff that you can't do it, Allah can do it.
Absolutely.
Because you can't make the earth and you weren't even created by someone.
Yes. So
That's why you're not created. Because if you're not created, you need to be created. But because Allah is uncreated, He's our God, He can do anything He wants to do.
Yes. May Allah bless you. So, in a nutshell, what our beloved professor is saying, that you can't have self-creation. Because think about it. Can your mother give birth to herself? Exactly. Because for something to be self-created, it means it was once not in existence because it was created. But for it to be self-created, it means it was in existence before it wasn't in existence to therefore come into existence, which is a paradox, right? Exactly. So the point here is, it's a logical impossibility for self-creation to happen. Because if something's self-created, it means it existed and didn't exist at the same time. How can that be the case? Can I exist and not exist at the same time? Maybe lots of dhikr. I'm only kidding, yeah? But you know, you can't, it can't happen, right? By the way, apologies for my British humour. We understand that North Americans are about at least 1,000 years behind us concerning humour, and you will catch up. Yeah. No? That was another joke then, no? Okay. Just laugh at me, it's fine. Don't laugh at my jokes. So, do you get that point? This is the easiest one to understand. Self-creation is impossible. It implies that something exists and not exists at the same time. Okay, take the universe as an example. If you say the universe created itself, it means it once wasn't there to be there. But for self-creation to be possible, it had to be there before it was there in order for it to be there, for it to come into existence. Just is logically impossible, right? And that's why Al-Khattabi, he makes a really interesting point. He says, well, how can you give an attribute of power to the universe before it existed? Because in order for the universe to create itself, it must have had power before it existed, which is impossible. Actually, Al-Khattabi, he just made it sound more better than I did. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, right? So he said, this is even more fallacious argument, because if something does not exist, how can it be described as having power? How can it create anything? How could it do anything? So, the universe couldn't create itself. The universe couldn't come from nothing. It couldn't create itself. Now we have the third logical possibility. Could the universe be created by something else created? Who could answer this question? Yes, Sheikh, Maulana, Mufti. No, I'm talking about the bearded brother, mashallah. The bigger bearded brother, mashallah.
I think this argument is like I've heard this argument before where someone said, well, if Allah created the universe, then Allah couldn't create another Allah. And that's basically a logical fallacy in itself.
That's not the situation here. Well, it's very similar, but the concept here is, well, we have a universe that's created, fair enough. It's finite, it came into existence. That can be explained by something else that is finite and is created. Is that an ultimate explanation for this universe?
No, because if something was created by something else created, it's going to keep on going and going and going and going.
Damn right, bro!
A created B and B created C and C created D, and then it's over and keep on. It's never going to stop. So what are you supposed to worship?
That was quite moving. Did you see how he connected it to worship? That was actually quite moving. So if A created B and B created C and C created D and that goes on forever, that will go on forever. So he didn't say, therefore you must have an uncreated creator. He said even something better. Then who are you supposed to worship then? Fitra. Children are ahl al-fitra. Wallahi. Beautiful. Beautiful. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Jeeb. So yeah, he's right. Fine. You're saying an explanation for this created universe that had a beginning is something else like another universe that had a beginning. But we could always raise the question, well then we'll create that universe. Another universe. We'll create that universe. Another universe. And we'll create that universe. Another universe. And if you go forever, you're going to have an infinite regress of universes. That means you have nothing in existence in the first place. Because this poses a massive problem that Al-Ghazali would say, you know, the cause could have a cause, but if that cause has a cause and that goes on forever, then you never have any existence around you in the first place. It's absurd. Al-Ghazali said this is the absurdity of the infinite regress of causes. Right? For example, if I wanted to go and kiss this brother's hand, But before I kiss his hand, I have to ask permission from the person behind me to kiss his hand. But that goes on forever. I'm never going to kiss his hand. Likewise, in order for this universe to be in existence, it was as a result of a previous universe that was also created. And that universe, for it to be in existence, had to have another universe previous to it that was also created. And that goes on forever. We would never have this universe in the first place. So what can we conclude? We conclude that by rational necessity, this universe must have had an uncaused cause or an uncreated creator. Because the universe couldn't come from nothing, it couldn't create itself, it couldn't be ultimately explained by something else that was created, because you have the problem of the infinite regress of causes. Therefore, the universe has an uncreated creator. This argument is so simple, brothers and sisters. I remember giving this argument to a Chinese atheist in Qatar. He was running a mobile phone business or something. And I just merely, practically just asked him these questions. I didn't even give him any answers. But he started from being an atheist to then becoming a deist. No, then becoming an agnostic, then becoming a deist, then believing there must have been some kind of causal creator. Just by these questions. It's the power of questions to get people to think. And you know, we have in Aqidah books that we believe Allah is eternal. He has no beginning. He has no end. And when the Prophet ﷺ said, "You are the first and you are the last," this means He is the first with no beginning and the last with no end. Allah is eternal, everlasting, the uncreated creator. As Al-Ghazali said, the same can be said of the cause of the universe. Now it can either go ad infinitum forever, which is absurd, or it will come to an end, meaning there is an uncaused cause, there is an uncreated creator. And we have to understand, brothers and sisters, when we have these abstract arguments, that they have profound spiritual effects as well. We shouldn't just use these arguments in abstraction. They have to relate to our lives. And it's quite interesting that one of the Sahaba would hear the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recite these verses we've just gone through. And he said that his heart began to soar. Abu Sulaiman al-Khattabi, he mentions, actually Al-Bayhaqi quotes him, and he mentions that his heart began to soar because he understood the implications of it. It affected his heart and his intellect. Arguments should do that. These type of positions and articulation of Islam, Islamic thought, shouldn't be abstract, right? It should affect who we are. Because if we now know there's an uncreated creator, then it should instill within us an immense sense of gratitude. And gratitude is a key to worship. Why should we be grateful? Because if there's a creator for the universe, including ourselves, then therefore Allah created our lives that we don't earn, own, or deserve, but it's freely given to us at every moment, and therefore we should create a sense of gratitude. Any questions? This is one of my favorite arguments because it's simple. Now there are different forms of this argument. This is usually called the Kalam cosmological argument. You have different formulations of it. They can get very complicated. But I use this with professors. Honestly. And if you want to be objective about the kind of videos that I've used this with professors, they haven't had an easy ride, right? At least give me that, right? To show the power of this argumentation. The best arguments are the arguments from the Quran. Now, by the way, when I speak to an atheist, depending on what type of atheist they are, what kind of human being they are, I may not say it's from the Quran. I might just give the logical structure. I might say, you know what? Since we believe the universe had a beginning, well, let's go through this logically from a metaphysical point of view. Could it come from nothing? And you define what nothing is. Could it create itself? Could it be created by something else created? Or could it be from an uncreated creator. You work your way through it. Once they come to the conclusion, then you say, oh, by the way, the Quran says exactly the same thing. To give power to the Quran, to show that we have a strong tradition, yeah? So it really depends who you're dealing with and what kind of person they are. And sometimes I won't even use the word created. Change the word created to cause. Say, so could the universe be caused from nothing? Right? Is it self-caused? Is it caused by something else that is caused? Or is it caused by something that's uncaused? Change the language depending who you speak to. This is a principle from Ali radiallahu anhu, as narrated by Al-Bukhari, when he says speak to people in a language that they understand. So when you use words like created, for some atheists, that's too much of a religious term. It's too much of a religious linguistic item, yeah? Just change it. Instead of saying, was it created from nothing? Say, was it caused from nothing? Instead of saying, did it create itself? You say, was it self-caused? Instead of saying, was it caused by something else that's caused? Instead of saying, was it created by something else that was created? Say it was caused by something else that was caused. And then, if you say it was created by something uncreated, say it was caused by something uncaused. It's the same thing, but a different way of putting it, depending what kind of language people appreciate. So you have to learn to be dynamic in your dawah. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What if they tell you that, what if the universe never had a cause, never had a beginning?
What would the argument be? What would be that first one?
Yeah, if they say the universe never had a cause, then there's two strategies to take. Strategy number one, show to them the universe had a cause. Strategy number two, use the argument that we're going to do after the break. Because it's not based on anything requiring a cause.